So we've heard something about Starling, we've heard something about Barclays, and then Revolut goes and gets a banking license in the UK. Huge step, not to be underestimated, but just purely in terms of what does it mean for them to be able to get that? They've had to go through hoops on governance. They are now officially seen as a bank in a similar way to many of the large established banks. And interestingly, they continue to grow. I know that they're busy, as you might tell, a fair amount about South Africa, and they're busy applying for banking licenses into Africa as well. So this just continues to expand where their growth goes, taking their technology and kind of growing into those areas. And importantly, if we relate back to the other conversations, they're not just going as a digital bank into those spaces. They're taking with them a whole bunch of tools and predefined technology, which for people in finance is massive. Integrations into Revolut is really easy. And some of the work that they are already looking at around how they can make that more seamless is crucial for us. So I think given what we're seeing with Barclays teaming up with Sage and some of the information that John shared around Starling, we can expect as Revolut starts to grow in this market, I think, to see even more tech come into that space. But it's just I also happen to have a Revolut account. And what's really interesting about things like that is you see this technology just going at speed. And this is a classic example of moving at speed into a traditional, really established market and seeing how you can disrupt.
So you've got a Revolut account, you've got a Starling account. I'm learning a lot about you today. Very digital first.
Well, I was going to say that the fun in games is half the time it's just easy to do these things and to try them. I mean, that's been the fun.
Love it. And also, actually, just building on that one point about Revolut, it's really good that they're going this direction because we've had so many businesses in the past. We heard from Alex Falcon, who had a major fraud that occurred with her business. So I think this is giving more protection to a lot more SMEs that have used Revolut in the past or have maybe thought against using Revolut. This will give them a bit more protection as well. So I think all round, it's a great innovation. They're absolutely smashing it. Let's bloody well hope that they don't leave us an IPO in the US, because at that point, we will be so heartbroken.
Well, and I mean, they have to expand into the US next. I mean, that's just the most logical growth. And they've shared their intentions to do that. Obviously, regulation, again, they'll have to jump through a bunch of hoops, and that will be no doubt challenging. But equally, I think it's super exciting to see that a digital first bank, literally no branches available, is able to grow A, this quickly, and B, into established markets.
And one question on this. I mean, do you guys have an opinion on like why Revolut have been so successful, compared to say like Monzo or Starling and others? Because they have who's ringing you? Because they seem to have grown so quickly, and yet they're the last of those people to get the banking license. And there has been criticism of them in the past in terms of like the controls and some of the stuff that they've put in place.
Well, again, I imagine that there's the market is incredibly fast growing, so they're not there's lots of competition out there. I think the reason I would assume that they've gone more slowly is because they've taken a cautious growth path into those markets. I mean, the more governance there is, the more complicated it becomes. I think they've tried to also stay independent of large banks. So where some of the other brands have taken some funding from larger banks, that may create more complexity, whereas Revolut has, I think, largely stayed independent of all of that, allowing them, obviously they get the challenge then, which is why don't you have the same things as our traditionally established banks, but it's challenging whether you need all of that, I think is difficult. I can't really comment on the Monzo thing though. It's an interesting one. I've seen quite a lot of Monzo coming into the UK, but I think it's still relatively, I'd love to know the users, but I'd assume it's relatively US based, and it's grown in that market and it's probably looking to expand out. Whereas we probably see a lot more of Revolut because it's European based and grown through our markets. I don't know how widely known it would be in the US as an example, but that's the kind of thing where as we start to see the switch over, I wonder whether we'll see more of Monzo coming into this type of market and trying to grow, and equally Revolut in the US doing the same.